picture this scenario for a second. You're staffing up for a critical remote development cycle.
Right.
You go through your standard pipeline, source a candidate who looks exceptional on paper, and they just completely nail the technical video interview.
Oh, flawlessly.
Yeah, answering complex architectural questions, their system design logic is perfect, and everything checks out.
Sounds like a great hire.
Exactly. So you initiate the onboarding, provision their access, ship a managed corporate device, and on day one, they log in and get to work. But what if the person you just hired, the face on that video call, the voice you were talking to, isn't actually a real human being?
Yeah, that is the terrifying part.
What if you just intentionally handed over network access to a state-sponsored operative hiding behind a synthetic identity?
I mean, it sounds like some theoretical red team exercise, right?
Yeah.
Like a worst-case scenario.
Completely.
But this is the current operational reality of remote workforce targeting. We are basically watching the complete deterioration of how organizations establish digital trust.
And that is exactly the wild vulnerability we're mapping out today. Welcome to this deep dive, everyone. We are synthesizing some recent, highly sensitive disclosures today.
Lots of new data to get through.
Oh, definitely. We've got unsealed Department of Justice indictments, Verizon's 2026 incident analysis, Fortinet's 2025 threat report, and some fresh market research.
It's a massive stack of intel.
It really is. And our mission for this deep dive is unpacking the absolute explosion of synthetic insider threats. We're looking at how deepfakes are infiltrating remote hiring and how modern IAM, that's identity and access management, along with PAM systems, are becoming the new frontline defense.
Because the old defense is just, well, they don't work against this.
Exactly. Okay, let's unpack this by starting with the DOJ's explosive findings from June of last year. Because this isn't theoretical at all.
No, not even a little bit. This was a highly coordinated campaign by North Korean nationals. They actually secured remote IT positions at over 100 different U.S.-based companies.
Over 100. Just let that sink in.
Right. And they completely bypassed the external security perimeter. They didn't hack a firewall. They just applied for a job, sat for an interview, and got hired.
Using the stolen identities of over 80 U.S. citizens to pull it off.
Yeah, identity theft at a massive scale.
And, you know, the primary goal wasn't even immediate espionage, although that threat vector was definitely there. It was actually revenue generation. They funneled over $5 million back to the DPRK regime through these fake jobs.
Which is just staggering when you think about the logistics.
Right. The physical logistics are what I really want to drill into here. Because if you're an IT director, you assume that shipping a locked-down corporate laptop with your endpoint detection software on it, your EDR, you assume that means you have a secure endpoint.
It's the standard operating procedure.
Yeah. You ship the laptop to an address in Texas. It logs in from a Texas IP. The EDR says everything is clean. So as far as you know, all systems are green.
But that assumption is exactly why the laptop farm methodology is so devastatingly effective right now.
Oh, man, the laptop farms. Explain how these things actually work.
So the operatives recruited accomplices based in the U.S. The DOJ actually just sentenced 8 of these facilitators.
Right.
The company ships the laptop to the facilitator's house in Texas. That facilitator takes the corporate machine, plugs it into their wall power, connects it to their home Wi-Fi, and then hooks it up to a KVM switch.
Which is a keyboard, video, and mouse relay.
Exactly.
And this is where I want to get into the mechanics, because people wonder, how is the endpoint detection software completely blind to this? If I have this robust EDR tool running, how does it not flag that the laptop is actually being controlled from Pyongyang?
It comes down to where that KVM sits in the hardware stack. You see, the EDR agent lives inside the operating system.
Okay, so it's looking at software level stuff.
Right. It monitors kernel activity, memory space, outbound network packets. But a physical KVM switch intercepts the HDMI video output and the USB input signals outside of the operating system.
Ah, I see.
So to the corporate laptop, it just thinks there's a generic Dell monitor and a standard USB keyboard plugged in. The EDR has literally zero visibility into the fact that those USB keystrokes are actually coming across a remote desktop session from halfway across the world.
That is wild. You're effectively air-gapping the remote control mechanism from the monitoring software.
Exactly. And because the network traffic from the laptop is going through the local Texas router, All your geofencing and IP whitelisting rules just validate it as perfectly normal.
The threat is physically sitting inside a house in Texas, but virtually it's thousands of miles away.
Precisely. But here's the thing that was just the first generation of this attack.
Right, here's where it gets really interesting. The AI escalation.
Yeah, the Financial Times recently reported on this, and it is a massive shift. These North Korean operatives are now targeting European companies using cheap, scalable, generative AI tools.
We're talking real-time deepfakes, right? Voice and video filters running live during the job interview.
Yes. And historically, rendering a deepfake that looked remotely convincing required a massive amount of computing power. You just couldn't do it live without huge latency.
The interviewer would immediately notice the lag.
Exactly. But that computational barrier is basically gone now. With standard consumer-grade GPUs, the rendering pipeline for a real-time face swap and voice clone operates with basically zero noticeable latency.
That is just terrifying for HR department.
It really is.
Yeah.
The threat actor feeds the stolen identity's photo into the software, and the neural network maps that two-dimensional image onto their actual facial landmarks in real time.
So the hiring manager is looking at a webcam feed of, say, an older white male from Ohio, which matches the stolen ID.
Right, and speaking with a perfectly cloned, accent-free voice, but the actual person sitting behind the keyboard is a younger operative operating out of Asia.
What's fascinating here is, wait, no, I'm stealing your line.
Go ahead, say it.
No, you take it. Why are insiders like this so dangerous?
Well, what's fascinating here is the sheer scale of the blast radius. The CTO of Reality Defender pointed this out recently. They called insiders the most devastating threat vector because they already have the keys to the castle.
They don't have to hack in.
Right. Think about an external attacker. They have to breach the firewall, establish a foothold, hide from detection, map the whole network, try to escalate privileges.
Oh, while hoping they don't trip an alarm.
Exactly. But an insider bypasses all of that. They are given valid credentials, and they have a legitimate business reason to be querying the database.
To ground this for a second, let's look at the Verizon 2026 analysis. Out of roughly 22,000 global security incidents they analyzed, about 12% were internal actors.
12% is a huge chunk when you are talking about tens of thousands of incidents.
Yeah. But wait, so is the biggest threat a sophisticated deepfake operation, or is it just everyday human error? Because we've been talking a lot about these malicious synthetic identities.
That is a great question. And the Fortinet 2025 report drops a massive reality check here.
Oh,
While the deepfake operative is the highest severity threat, the highest volume of incidents, a staggering 62%, actually stems from unintentional human error or just compromised everyday accounts.
wow, 62%.
Yeah, and these aren't cheap mistakes. They cost companies between $1 million and $10 million per serious incident.
So the majority of the time, the call is coming from inside the house, but it's just Bob from accounting accidentally clicking a phishing link.
Or Bob accidentally uploading sensitive data to the wrong place.
Which perfectly transitions us to a huge trend Google Threat Intelligence is warning about right now, shadow AI.
Well, shadow AI is a massive headache for security teams right now.
We all remember shadow IT, right? Employees spinning up unapproved AWS instances because going through procurement was just too slow. But shadow AI is about employees pasting sensitive corporate data into unapproved generative AI tools.
Like a developer trying to debug some code and just pasting a massive chunk of proprietary source code into a public chatbot.
Yes, you are essentially open sourcing your company's trade secrets. And it doesn't trigger any perimeter alarms because the network traffic just looks like regular web browsing.
Exactly. And I want to tie this back to a really important point that security researchers Holtquist and Gilliland recently made about AI agents.
Oh, the non-human identities.
Yes, we are moving from humans using AI to companies deploying autonomous AI agents to do work for them on the network.
Like a customer service bot that can actually access the billing system to process a refund.
Right, but those AI agents need their own IAM identities, just like a human employee. They have to authenticate.
Makes sense.
But if an AI agent has standing access to your database and an attacker compromises that agent, say, through a prompt injection attack, the attacker instantly inherits all of that agent's access.
So the bot basically hands over the keys.
Yep, which means you have to scope their access, audit them constantly, and aggressively rotate their secrets, or you are leaving a massive backdoor wide open.
Okay, so we've mapped out the malicious synthetic threats and the accidental AI data leaks. Now we have to pivot to the defense playbook. How do companies actually stop this without just completely shutting down remote hiring?
You definitely don't want to kill remote work, but you have to upgrade the locks.
I like to think of it this way. Traditional HR identity verification is just checking a driver's license at the front door of a hotel.
Right, and once you're inside, you can wander anywhere.
Exactly. But modern IAM is like a smart hotel keycard that only lets you into your specific room and only for the nights you booked. And PAM, Privileged Access Management, is the security guard standing in front of the hotel vault, making sure you don't wander in there.
That is a perfect analogy.
Yeah.
And to implement that, companies are having to completely merge HR, legal, IT, and security teams. They can't operate in silos anymore.
So what does that look like before the person is even hired? How do we stop the fake ID?
Sentinel put out some great advice on this. They say you have to intercept the threat at the application stage with document and biometric binding.
Biometric binding, okay.
Yeah, so not just looking at a scanned PDF of a passport. It means using a smartphone NFC reader to read the cryptographic chip embedded in the physical passport and then doing a live biometric scan to match the applicant's face to the high-res photos stored on that chip.
Wow, so you're cryptographically proving they hold the physical document.
Exactly. And simultaneously, deepfake detection software is running in the background, looking for virtual cameras or checking if the IP address completely mismatches the device fingerprint.
But you know, my favorite part of the defense playbook is actually the low-tech stuff. There are these brilliant low-tech checks you can do live on a call that completely break real-time deepfake filters.
Oh, the physical constraints tests. They are so simple, but so effective.
Right. You just ask the candidate to turn their head 90 degrees to the side,
Yep.
or ask them to wave their hand directly in front of their face, or read a random phrase you hold up on a piece of paper.
It's hilarious how well it works. The AI filter is trying to map a two-dimensional generated face onto a three-dimensional real head. When they look straight ahead, it's fine. But when they turn in profile, the software suddenly has to calculate the depth of a nose and a jawline in real time, and the two-dimensional mapping just completely fails.
The digital face tears in half or just drops completely, and suddenly you see the real person behind the filter.
A completely zero-cost security control.
I love it. Okay, but let's say they pass all that. They are a real person, they get hired, they are provisioned. What happens at provisioning and during employment?
This is where IAM and PAM take over. Tenable has some strong advice here regarding the principle of least privilege. You have to limit unnecessary paths to your critical systems.
So no more giving every senior dev standing admin access to the production server 24/7.
Exactly. If a developer needs to push an update, you give them access for 4 hours. Once the window closes, the access self-destructs.
And for the crown jewels, the really sensitive databases, you layer PAM over it.
Right. For the critical stuff, PM steps in and requires multi-factor authentication, maybe a secondary approval workflow where another human has to sign off on the access and it initiates full session recording.
Like screen recording.
Keystrokes, database queries, everything is logged cryptographically.
So IAM is really evolving into a continuous sensor, not just a static gate at the perimeter.
It has to be. It's constantly evaluating your state. If you usually log in from Ohio and suddenly your token is requesting access from a KVM relay farm in Texas, or you're a front-end developer trying to access the HR payroll database at 3 a.m.
The system flags it.
It flags it as impossible travel or anomalous behavior, and it instantly locks the session.
Which brings us right to the tension of this whole thing, the real trade-off. Because implementing all these strict IAM protocols and continuous behavioral checks leads to a very human question.
Are we just building a corporate Big Brother?
Exactly. I mean, the market for this tech is exploding. Mordor Intelligence says the data loss prevention, or DLP, market is growing from $33 billion in 2025 to roughly $43 billion this year in 2026.
That is a massive influx of capital into surveillance tools.
It is.
And this raises an important question, which Tenable and Alvarez and Marsal have been sounding the alarm on. If you push the monitoring too far, like literal keystroke logging every minute of the day for sentiment analysis, you create massive friction.
You create a deeply toxic culture of surveillance.
And what happens when you create friction? Engineers find workarounds. They start moving data to unmonitored personal devices just to get their work done, which actually makes you less secure.
So how do you find the balance?
You have to focus on verifying risk, not just constantly surveilling people. And you definitely cannot use indicators like location or nationality as proxies for suspicion. That's a huge pitfall.
So it's about smart triggers.
Yes. You tie the HR system directly to IT so that when someone is fired, their access is revoked globally in seconds. and you rely on step-up authentication.
Meaning low friction for normal, everyday work, but high friction only when the risk score spikes.
Exactly. If they're just checking your email, leave them alone. If they try to download the entire customer database, that's when you force them to use a hardware security key or do a biometric check.
Okay, so what does this all mean? Let's synthesize this for you guys listening. The physical ID checks and the deepfake detection stop the fake person from getting hired in the first place. But the modern IAM and PAM architectures are what actually stop the real person, the fake person, or the compromised AI agent from doing damage once they are inside the network.
And it is a complete defense-in-depth strategy.
It has to be. But as we wrap up, I know you had one final, somewhat mind-bending thought on where this is all heading.
Yeah, I do. Because we've talked about AI agents doing tasks and AI deepfakes applying for jobs.
Right.
Well, companies are increasingly using AI agents to screen applicants and conduct initial video interviews to save time.
Oh, no. I see where this is going.
Yeah, and applicants are using AI deepfakes to mass apply and sit through those interviews. So how long until the hiring process is quite literally just one corporate AI trying to outsmart an applicant's AI with absolutely zero humans involved on either side?
Wow. Just bots interviewing bots in the cloud. That is a wild thought to end on. Well, thank you for walking us through this incredible deep dive today. And to you listening, thank you for joining us. But before we head out, I have a very special shout out that is absolutely mandatory today.
Oh, yes, please do.
A massive shout out to CyberknightMike. For those who aren't familiar, Mike is an absolute rock star in this field. He is a phenomenal IAM and PAM expert with over 15 years of global experience across the world. And he does it all while working seamlessly in 3 different languages.
3 languages. The guy is a legend.
It's an absolute legend. CyberknightMike, we appreciate everything you do for the community. And to everyone else, stay vigilant out there, check those remote endpoints, and remember, if an interview seems a little too perfect, just ask them to wave at the camera. Catch you on the next deep dive.